You know, for a long time, the story of farming and pests was basically a war story. It was fought with some seriously powerful chemical pesticides. But what if there's a smarter way to do things? A way to protect our food by actually working with nature instead of against it. Turns out, we can use secrets that insects themselves have been using for millions of years.
And that's really the big question, right? How do you handle pests without just blasting your fields with chemicals? That old approach, well, it had some major drawbacks. We're talking environmental damage, not to mention pests that just kept getting stronger and more resistant. The answer, it seems, isn't a bigger weapon, but a totally different strategy.
And it all starts with learning to speak the enemy's language. See, insects talk to each other using these chemicals called pheromones. Think of it like a perfume, a chemical message that they send out on the breeze. It can mean watch out, danger. Or, and this is the important one for our story, it could mean, hey, I'm over here, let's find each other.
So what if we could hijack that conversation? What if we could just jump in and mess with those signals? Well, that's exactly what farmers are doing now, with a strategy that's basically tricking pests with their own perfume. Okay, so this is called mating disruption, and it's honestly brilliant. Here's how it works. First, you put out these little dispensers that release a synthetic version of the female's mating pheromone all through an orchard. This just floods the air with the scent, creating thousands of false trails. So now the male insects, they're completely overwhelmed. They can't tell the difference between the fake scent cloud and a real female. They just fly around, totally confused, can't find a mate, and if there's no mating, the pest's population just fizzles out on its own.
And here's the most elegant part. Each pheromone is incredibly specific to one species. It's like a key that only fits a single lock. So it only messes with the one pest you're trying to target. That means all the good guys, you know, the bees, the ladybugs, all the helpful predators, they're left completely alone to do their thing. It's surgical precision.
But as cool as that is, pheromones are just one tool in a much, much bigger collection. It's better to think of it as nature's arsenal. A whole toolbox full of what we call biological controls, or biocontrols, that are giving farmers some amazing new options. And these tools pretty much fall into four main categories. You've got your macrobiols, your microbiols, the semiochemicals, which is where pheromones fit, and natural substances. All right, let's pop open this toolbox and see what's inside.
First up, the macrobiols. This is your classic good bugs versus bad bugs play. It's all about releasing beneficial organisms, like this praying mantis here, that are the natural enemies of the pests you want to get rid of. You're literally fighting bugs with, well, other bugs.
Next, we've got the microbials. Now we're zooming way in, to the microscopic level. These are products made from stuff that's already out there in nature. Bacteria, fungi, viruses that happen to be deadly to specific pests, but totally harmless to everything else. It's like deploying a targeted disease that only the bad guys can catch.
And the last two categories round out the whole shebang. We have semiochemicals, which is the broader group for those behavior-changing chemicals, like the pheromones we just talked about. And then you've got natural substances, which is exactly what it sounds like. Things like oils from plants or certain mineral extracts that pests just can't stand.
Okay, so we've got this incredible set of tools, right? But just having a great toolbox isn't enough. You need a game plan, a strategy. How on earth do you decide which tool is the right one for the job, and maybe even more importantly, when is the right time to even use it?
Well, that's where this whole philosophy called integrated pest management, or IPM, comes into play. And this isn't just another technique. It's a complete shift in how you think about a farm, seeing it as a whole ecosystem.
The official definition from the UN basically says IPM is about carefully considering all your options to manage pests in a way that makes economic sense, and, crucially, poses the smallest possible risk to people and the planet. So notice the T word there is manage, not eliminate. It's not about wiping out every single pest, it's about smart management.
This quote really just nails it. The whole idea behind IPM is to help grow a healthy, strong crop with the least possible disruption. It's about letting nature's own defense systems do most of the work for you. It's a much more holistic, big-picture approach.
Now, a huge part of this strategy is to stop guessing and start using data. IPM is a science. It's all about knowing exactly when, and maybe even if, you really need to step in.
And it all starts with something called scouting. This literally means getting your boots on the ground, out in the fields, and constantly monitoring what's going on. Experts are looking super closely, counting pests, checking on the plants, and just gathering a ton of real-time data.
And they use that data to make a really critical decision based on two key ideas. First, there's the economic injury level. Think of that as the breaking point. It's when the pest population gets so high that the damage they're causing actually costs more than it would to treat them. So before you get there, you set an economic threshold. That's your trigger. It's the line in the sand that says, okay, the numbers are high enough, now it's time to act.
This graph makes it all so clear. Look, you can see the pest population, that yellow line, going up and down. The goal is not to keep that line flat at zero. No way. Instead, you let nature do its thing, but you watch. And as soon as it hits that brown dashed line, the economic threshold, that's your signal. You use a treatment, bring the population back down, and you do it long before it ever gets near that blue dotted line, which is where you'd actually start losing money.
And that's the absolute key takeaway. IPM gets rid of the old just-in-case, spray-on-a-schedule mindset. It replaces it with smart, data-driven, and timely action. You only act when you actually need to, and you always pick the gentlest tool for the job. So what happens when you combine these super clever biocontrol tools with the smart IPM strategy? What's the payoff? Well, the results are a massive shift towards a much safer, more sustainable way to farm. This table just lays it all out, crystal clear. Yeah, traditional pesticides can be pretty effective in a broad-spectrum, scorched earth kind of way, but they come with a big price tag. High environmental impact, and potential health risks. Biopesticides, on the other hand, are way more targeted. Their biggest selling points? Minimal impact on the environment and little to no toxicity for us.
And that really boils down to three huge advantages. First, it's just safer for people, from the farm workers to you and me eating the food. Second, it protects the environment. These things break down quickly and don't harm the good guys. And third, and this is a big one, because these methods are so specific, they make it way harder for pests to develop resistance, which means our tools will actually keep working for years to come.
And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? This isn't just about swapping out one kind of pesticide for another. It's about a fundamental change in how we approach farming, one that could actually help us tackle some of the biggest challenges facing the world today.
So it leaves us with one last, pretty important question. We clearly have the tools and the science to work with nature in a much more intelligent way. The technology is here. So the question now is, what's it going to take for this smarter approach to stop being the alternative and start being the new normal for farms everywhere?